Is Mike Norvell done at Florida State? Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ross Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. I think at the beginning of the season, if we had have asked which Florida coach was going to end up getting fired this season, or the most likely to get fired first, it was going to be Billy Napier at the Florida Gators. And he still might be fired first out of all the Florida coaches, because Florida, even though they're 3-2, the gauntlet of their schedule is coming up, and there's still a great chance Florida misses a bowl game, and it might be the end of Billy Napier at Florida. But Mike Norvell at Florida State is starting to be on thin ice as well, and nobody would have thought that at the beginning of the season. After last year, when they went undefeated in the regular season, should have made the playoffs, but Jordan Travis got hurt, and then they missed the playoffs, got destroyed by Georgia in the bowl game, but that was to be expected when they lost their starting quarterback and a lot of their players. But coming into this season, as long as Mike Norvell took Florida State to around 8-4, 9-3, no one really would have said anything. They'd have been like a bit of a down year, but Florida State's going to build back up for the season after that. But so far, it has been an absolutely disastrous season for the Florida State Seminoles, and it looks like they're reverting back to where they were about a decade ago after Jimbo Fisher left Florida State for the Texas A&M job. I'm going to go over whether I think Mike Norvell's done at Florida State or whether he still has a shot to save his job by having more success at the end of this season and keep his job for next year. Now, Mike Norvell, he's had an up and down tenure at the Florida State Seminoles. When you look at his record overall after he came from Memphis, where he had tons of success, it started out very rocky with 2 losing seasons. And a lot of people thought Mike Norvell was going to get fired after that 5-7 season in 2021 because of the fact Willie Taggart, the coach before that at Florida State, he had 2 losing seasons in his first 2 years, and he ended up getting fired. So it just kind of seemed like maybe Mike Norvell would get the same treatment, but he was recruiting very well. And even though they had that bad loss to Jacksonville State, most people were like, if you just give it a little bit more time, he's going to end up having success at Florida State, unlike Willie Taggart, where it just did not look like things were trending in the right direction. And lo and behold, Florida State went 10-3 with Jordan Travis at quarterback, won their bowl game, and then last year had the fantastic season until Travis got hurt. But this season, they're 1-5. And not only are they 1-5, they are losing to teams that they clearly should be beating. Look at who they have lost to. They lost to Georgia Tech, Boston College, Memphis. They've lost to SMU and Clemson. And really, out of all of those games, the only one that really even makes sense that they should have lost would have been Clemson. Those other games, they should have beaten SMU, Memphis, Boston College, and Georgia Tech. Florida State clearly has more talent than all those teams. But talent doesn't mean everything. And what's been a big issue for Mike Norvell is the fact that he brought in a ton of transfers the past couple of seasons, and those transfers hit in that 10-3 season and the 13-1 season they had the past couple of years. But this season, he brought in a bunch of transfers. None of them hit. DJ Uiagalelei has not hit. He's now been benched, and Brock Glenn is now in at quarterback, the guy that came in a little bit for Jordan Travis last year before he got hurt. And then when you look at some of the defensive players Florida State brought in, some of those guys were thought to be first-round draft picks this year, that they were going to have tons of success. None of those guys are living up to expectations, and it's all culminated in Florida State having a garbage football team this year, and they're losing to teams that they clearly should be beating. Now, I will say Florida State's schedule hasn't been super easy. It's not like all the teams that they've lost to have been really bad, but still, SMU, Memphis, Boston College, and Georgia Tech, you got to at least win 3 out of those 4 games. You can't lose them all, and they barely beat Cal on their own field. Florida State's just having a disastrous season. And then when you look at the rest of their schedule, it doesn't look like it gets any better from here. They got Miami on the road, which Miami, we know that they could choke before, but still Miami is playing pretty well, and they're finding ways to win. So that's going to be tough for Florida State. Notre Dame, you would think that would be an outright loss being in South Bend. That would already put Florida State at 7 losses. And then they have Florida, who's been playing better lately, at Duke's up next. And then they got North Carolina as well. There is a shot that Florida State goes 3-9. That would be insane if they did, but if they went 3-9, I think Mike Norvell's fired. Or if they somehow went 2-10 and lost every remaining game outside of Charleston Southern, he's gone. There is no way that Mike Norvell is going to go 2-10 and 3-9 and keep his job at Florida State. Willie Taggart didn't, and I know that Mike Norvell has recruited well, and he has had the previous 2 seasons of success. But look at Ed O. LSU got rid of him after he had a couple subpar seasons at LSU after the national championship. So it's not like it's been unheard of for a coach to get fired immediately after having a lot of success. And then when you look at Florida State's recruiting rankings this year, that's what's been saving Mike Norvell. It's the great recruiting classes. His recruiting class is only at number 35 right now for the 2025 class. And in 2024, he had the 11th ranked class, which none of these guys have hit. That's been the big issue for this season. They haven't played well. And obviously, the transfer portal could really help Florida State if Norvell can keep his job. You know he's going to bring in some transfers, but the high school recruiting class, they got 1 5-star, but there's just not a lot of meat to this recruiting class. Maybe they can get some more guys in the coming months, but you know a lot of dudes are probably turned off by how bad Florida State's been playing this year. And I asked people on Twitter, will Florida State fire Mike Norvell this season? And it's about 50-50. 43% of people say yes, 50% say no, and 7% say not sure. If you combine the not sure with the yes votes, that's 50-50. So people are definitely concerned with Mike Norvell's job security. Jackson, my buddy, says they will not fire him, but I'm not so sure. I understand that he's only having a bad season this year, and he just had 2 previous seasons of success. But when you look at the first 2 seasons of his tenure at Florida State, he's now at 3 bad seasons at Florida State versus only 2 good seasons. He doesn't really have a great recruiting class on tap right now, and everybody's calling for him to be fired. Florida State's one of those jobs where you got to have success. You cannot have bad seasons and keep your job. Jimbo Fisher was even trending in the wrong direction, and that's why, in my opinion, he left for the A&M job, besides also getting more money. But that remaining schedule is the issue. They don't have a lot of games on their schedule that are gimmies. If he's going to keep his job, he's got to beat Florida, he's got to beat North Carolina, he's got to beat Duke and Charleston Southern to go at least 5-7. That would save his job, in my opinion. If they could go 6-6, with them starting at 1-5 right now and how anemic that they've looked, that would be a miracle for them to make a bowl game. He would keep his job if they went 6-6 or better. 5-7 to me is the fence line. If he goes 5-7, he's going to save his job. But if he goes worse than that, Mike Norvell's done. He cannot keep his job going 4-8 or worse, especially 3-9 or 2-10. I don't see it at 4-8 either. So is Mike Norvell done at Florida State? The answer is not yet. He's not done yet at Florida State. It depends on what they do the rest of the season, because if they have too bad of a record, he's not saving his job. And they've even showed clips of him on Twitter of him running with his teammates during the practices. He's trying to get their mojo up. He's trying during this bye week to say, hey, we can still turn this around. We're talented. We got players. I'm pumped. We got to all band together and fix this thing. So Mike Norvell, I don't blame it all on him. I do not blame it all on him. I don't think he's a bad coach. He's had too much success in Memphis and Florida State for me to think that he's a bad coach. And a lot of people even thought he was a candidate for the Alabama job before Kalen DeBoer got the job. So I don't think Mike Norvell is a bad coach, but sometimes you just don't hit on the transfer portal, and sometimes you just don't bring in the right players, and that's what's going on for Florida State this year. I think if they do give him another year, he probably will do better in the transfer portal, bring in better players, and they'll have more success next season. But that's if he can keep his job. And like I said, things are not looking great. If he goes 4-8 or worse, he's done at Florida State. So he's got a 50-50 shot to keep his job. Like I said, he's not done yet, but if he has a bad rest of the year, then Mike Norvell will certainly get fired by the end of the 2024 season. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Florida State's remaining schedule, the recruiting prospects for Florida State, and whether you believe that Mike Norvell will be done at Florida State by the end of the season, or whether you think, like me, that he does still have a slight chance to save his job, even though it is very slim. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.